In this video, we're going to take a look at drawing a tree using colored pencils. We'll take a step-by-step approach in this demonstration, and I'll give you a few pointers on how you can create realistic texture. We'll be using Faber-Castell Polychromos colored pencils for this demonstration, which are oil-based colored pencils. Most colored pencils feature a wax-based binder. Polychromos pencils are different because they feature an oil-based binder. For this reason, we'll approach the drawing a little bit differently. I'm working on Canson Mi-Teinte's pastel paper, and I'm using the smoother side. After the contour or outline of the tree is established using walnut brown, I'll start to add the local color. In this case, we'll start with light green. Then I'll start to establish some of the lighter areas or highlights using cadmium yellow. Because the Polychromos pencils are oil-based and will layer differently than traditional wax-based colored pencils, I'm starting with some of the lighter values and progressively working towards darker values. So we'll continue with an application of white. Now we'll start to establish the overall shapes of the groupings of leaves using phthalo blue. We're going to use blue and yellow for this demonstration for obvious reasons. They mix to create green. But there's another reason as well. Yellows are inherently lighter in value, so they'll be used for the highlighted areas, and blues are darker in value, so they'll be used for the shadowed areas. This relationship will create the illusion of natural-looking groupings of leaves within the tree. So as we make our marks using the phthalo blue, we're going to think about the overall texture of the leaves. Some of the leaves will extend out beyond the contour line, where we might not see any stems of the tree at all, just a few leaves here and there. As we work, we'll also consider a range of value. Value, of course, is the darkness or lightness of a color. We'll need to have a full range of darks and lights in order to create an accurate illusion. If we look again here at the groupings of leaves on the tree, you'll notice that it's all about the value relationships. We have dark values, also called shades, which are positioned right next to light values, also called tints. It's this relationship that leads to an accurate illusion of texture. We're going to push the darker values initially using walnut brown. Of course, we can layer on top with our local color or light green and other greens like emerald green to push the depth in the color, making the groupings of leaves look more realistic. We'll also use a sharpened black in between the spaces to create the illusion of branches. A heavy application is applied here to make a deliberate line. We can also go back with white and push the highlights even further. As marks are made, we're trying to create an illusion. We're trying to create the illusion of the texture that is perceived by our minds. We're not drawing every single leaf. Instead, we're only concentrating on the texture that is created. This means that our marks might consist of small irregular circles in order to create this illusion. Of course, depending on the type of the tree, the marks may vary. For this tree, which is a mulberry tree, small irregular circles work to create the illusion of the texture. This layering process continues to other portions of the tree. First, laying down the phthalo blue, then pushing the darker values using walnut brown, layering over the top of that with the light green and the emerald green, and then pushing the highlights with white. In the spaces in between, visible branches can be added using black. It's also important to allow some of the leaves and branches to extend out beyond the contours of the tree. With that being said, it's also important to consider that there are open spaces that will exist in the body portion of the tree. These should be included in order to create an illusion of a realistic tree. In this example, the light source is originating from the left side. This means that the majority of the darker values will exist on the right side of the tree, but this doesn't mean that darker values should be neglected on the side of the light source. Darker values will still exist here. After all, it's the relationship between the darker and lighter values that will lead to the illusion of realistic leaves. There will be, however, larger areas where lighter values exist on the side of the light source. And of course, as we work each section, we'll add lines for visible branches in between. These lines should break in areas. In other words, groupings of leaves will be visible over the top of some of the branches. Here's a closer look. As you can see, there are groupings of leaves that block the view of some of the branches. So you shouldn't just put lines everywhere. Instead, you should let the lines be visible in certain parts, but covered by groupings of leaves in other parts. As is the case with most colored pencil drawings, you'll want to develop some depth in the color. This means that you'll be layering your colors in order to produce this depth. With each layer that you apply to the surface, the colored pencils will behave a little bit differently as they cover up the tooth of the paper. This is referred to most commonly as burnishing. So as you add more colors to the surface, the binder of the material will cause the colored pencils to behave more like a paint on the surface, which is very desirable. Of course, with heavier applications, this burnishing will occur sooner in the drawing process. With oil-based colored pencils, however, burnishing is a little bit different. So you're probably going to want to start with lighter applications and slowly build up to those heavier applications. As we continue this process of building up the colors in the body of the tree, slowly our tree starts to develop here. This requires patience, of course. Alright, now that we've got the body of the tree pretty much developed, we'll go ahead and turn our attention to the trunk of the tree. I'll start here with a bit of black, establishing some of the darker values. Next, I'm going to use light ultramarine over the top of this. This may seem like a strange decision to use a blue down here, but it's going to give our trunk a little bit of a cooler tone. We'll also use a little bit of walnut brown and orange. Then I can go over the top of those applications with white. In this case, I'm going to put heavy pressure on the pencil, creating that burnishing effect that I spoke of earlier. We can continue to develop the details over the top of the white, in this case with additional black. We'll create a little bit of texture on the side of the tree as well, and a few highlights, and then another application of light ultramarine. Of course, depending on the size of your drawing, you can really build these details up to a high level of realism. We'll also do the same with the parts of the trunk that are visible within the canopy of the tree. Now, to finish the drawing off, we'll add a bit of grass underneath the tree. We'll start with light green, then we'll layer the top of that with phthalo blue and a bit of cadmium yellow. We'll add a bit of shadow with walnut brown. And then our colored pencil drawing is complete. Remember, when you're creating a drawing, you're creating an illusion. The more you understand how this illusion is created, the better you become at drawing. I hope this demonstration helped you out. If you enjoyed this video and you're ready to learn more, why not check out 4 video courses, live instruction, and over 6,000 minutes of art instruction, which include ebooks, live lessons, lesson plans, and more. Just click on the button to learn more now.